Hi everyone, welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba, and today I want to do my movie review on Magic Mike's Last Dance, which is, if you don't know, the third film of the Magic Mike series that has been led by none other than Channing Tatum. So, when it comes to the Magic Mike series itself, I guess you can say for the most part it is just supposed to be fun, right? It's supposed to be catered to, of course, a female audience because of, the whole idea of strippers and just strippers doing dances and just giving some form of entertainment for a female audience that they typically do not get this sort of enjoyment, right? And I mean, for the most part, like the first film, I think it was just a lot of fun. It was made for what it was supposed to be, that is, something for female audiences to, and not even just female, right? Even some male audiences to enjoy, right? Female and male audiences who enjoy this sort of, entertainment. And the fact that it does have Channing Tatum as the lead, like he is, he has this background of, of dancing. I believe that's how, his first job was when he used to work in Miami as well. So it's like something that, he's able to utilize a talent that he kind of has that he hasn't been able to utilize before, and is now able to put up in like his own show in a film sort of way, right? And we saw that with Magic Mike. Wow, like we see this contemplation from the character, how Mike wants to move on from sort of his his stripper sort of job, and do something that he might be able to enjoy more of. Then we see in the second film where he's kind of left that to life, but also he wants to reunite with his friends and trying to put on a new show that he himself can invest on. And of course, now we have Magic Mike 3, or Magic Mike's Last Dance, where it's basically supposed to be his last dance. He goes to London after meeting this, this lady, this about to be divorced lady that's played by Salma Hayek, who, is allowing him an opportunity to really showcase his last, sort of, I guess, craft onto the big stage, and doing so in like his, dance sort of expertise, right? And so that becomes a big part of this film. And yeah, let's just talk about it in general. Like I'm just gonna spit it out and say that I just did not enjoy Magic Mike's Last Dance. I think that overall, I just didn't feel like it was, necessary, other than just the fact that they just trying to push more of these films, especially in the fact that, this is kind of Channing Tatum's like baby in a sense, and this is where he is very, able to showcase himself at, the highest. But even for a film like this, right, I feel like for the most part, the whole storyline and what it was trying to present, instead of just trying to be, crafty about it, creative about it, trying to give someone an opportunity to really just expand on something that they're very good at, it just becomes more of a cringe fest. And every time you watch this film, right, I love Salma Hayek. She's a very beautiful, first off, very beautiful, amazing actress. My dad loves Salma Hayek. That's for one thing I will say right there. But I just felt like this was a film that just did not suit Hayek in any way. I feel like it was just really pushing a lot of things that just didn't really make sense. Just felt a bit convoluted. And in some ways, I did feel like it felt problematic just because of everything that was going on. Because again, it is, a character like Max, which is played by Salma Hayek, who just, brings a guy like Mike just for this random sort of show. And in some of and let's say just this, right? And some of the sequences that we're dealing with, right, as they are recruiting the dancers, how they are trying to find a, direction for their show that is supposed to kind of replace something that's a bit more misogynistic, and try to give something that's a bit more feminist. Like, they keep trying to bring this whole feminist aspect to it, and it's just like, I felt like it didn't really hit the bars of what it's supposed to be as a feminist sort of change to what's going on. In more ways or of anything, it just felt like a cringe fest where we have these forced dances, we have this forced, clash that's happening between two different minds. I did not feel that the chemistry between Salma Hayek and Channing Tatum was there. I'm not going to question anything about the fact that there is a huge age difference, but it's just the fact that there isn't really that good chemistry out there between the two characters. Like, I felt like it was a lot more forced than really just having this more natural, sort of progression of their chemistry of it. Again, this guy just only met Max for a week or so, and somehow they just fall in love or whatnot. It's just something that it just didn't really come together quite nicely. Again, a lot of it just felt convoluted, forced, not very natural and very cringy. I think that's the best way to describe this film. That's super cringy, like, especially, and I'm not just talking about, you know, the chemistry between Hayek and Tatum, but I'm also talking about, you know, the sequences that they're trying to do in terms of trying to create the show, right? Like, there's, like, for one case, like, Salma Hayek's character is trying to say, oh, this is supposed to be like a striptease show, this is not a stripper show, this is not any sort of show, this is just trying to be a, you know, improvement of what this old show used to be about, and trying to bring a bit more of a feminist aspect to it. But when you watch the actual, like, sequences of it, I feel like it did not really, you know, it just wasn't really fulfilling kind of what they were trying to show. Like, it still felt like it was just another striptease show, regardless that it is a show where, you know, we have a lot of strippers, just, you know, be a form of entertainment for female audience. And I just felt like that was what it was for the most part. I will say, for one thing, even with all the cringy stuff with how they're trying to present this show, how they're trying to direct, you know, how the show is going to be about, what they're trying to narrate, because again, even the narration of what their show's supposed to be about just didn't really make sense. I think that overall, I think the final act of it, like, it turned out better than I anticipated, because everything that was happening before was just horrible, you know, sort of sequences that just didn't really make any sense. But I will say, for one thing, that the final act of itself was better than I had thought, although there were some really cringy moments. And some things that I thought they were trying to present as a feminist sort of thing just wasn't really feminist or feminism or anything of some sort. That's just kind of BS right there. If anything, again, it's just a form of entertainment, and it just didn't really make a lot of sense overall. But even with that being the case, right, like, this is a film that I just felt like, yeah, they're trying to do it. Like, overall, this film is trying to be focused on the fact that this is about almost like a romance between Tatum and Hayek, showing how their, you know, their love story has somehow, you know, evolved. But I feel like, even with that being the case, the pacing was horrible. Things just were not really done in a very natural way. Things were really convoluted, as I keep mentioning, and of course, like, the word I cannot just stop saying, it just felt like cringe. Like, I just, as someone like me who's trying to enjoy a film like this, right, like, the whole point of what this film is supposed to be about is that it's supposed to be a form of enjoyment, and yet I feel like there was just a lot more cringe than really just anything really great about it. And yeah, and that's just that. But again, the pacing of it was just really off. Like, I think a lot of things that were happening in this film, like, the plot was just really weak. It just wasn't really progressing the way that it would go from A, B, C, D. It just went from, okay, let's just do this show, and then you're trying to focus on the show aspect, trying to direct it, trying to figure out the story of it. Oh, but let's not forget the fact that, you know, Max has her own, you know, legal case against her soon to be ex-husband, trying to, you know, have this divorce that's supposed to be, you know, finalized very soon. We have that kind of in the background, and then the fact that Max has her adopted daughter around, you know, to watch what's going on. Oh, let's not forget the fact that, you know, even though she has adopted this character, she doesn't really make her call her mother or whatnot, right? Like, there's a lot of things that it was kind of like the subplots that really didn't fit in well, or just weren't as well developed as they should have been. And again, like, they tried to focus on the fact that this is a movie about Magic Mike's Last Dance, right? That's what it's supposed to be. And with that being the case, it just felt like things just didn't progress very well. Like, you have like things like the auditions, you have, again, the direction of it all. And again, as much as with the final act itself was better than I had thought it was going to be, it just didn't really work out. Like, I just felt like the pacing was totally off. The way it goes from the middle act to the final act was pretty quick. Like, there wasn't really, again, a really natural transition from point A to point B to point C. And again, it just didn't really work out for me. I just felt like this is a film that, as it's supposed to, I guess, it's supposed to be sort of this conclusion to this whole series. Because even in the beginning, just before the film even starts, right, there was actually a interlude in the beginning where Channing Tatum comes in and says, hey, we just wanted to do this one last film. Or I don't know if he said one last film, but he wanted to do a third film because he had this vision that he thought was going to be, you know, different, that, you know, was going to really show Magic Mike in a different way, that was necessary to make a third film. But honestly, in comparison to the other two films, it just did not feel necessary at all. Like, the vision that they tried to have for what was supposed to be Magic Mike's final dance just didn't really cut it. It just felt really cringe. Again, that's the best way to really describe this film. It's just a cringe fest. And I just did not enjoy it as I hoped it would be. again, it might be because of the fact that they didn't have the older cast. Maybe it's the fact that, the chemistry was really off between Hayek and Tatum, or the fact that it just felt so convoluted that this is something that just would never work ever, or it just would never happen in real life. Regardless, all of that, like, it just did not work. Things were just really off about this film, and I just did not really enjoy it, even if the final act was much better than I hoped it was going to be. I will say, for one thing, the whole, like, scene between him and the ballerina was kind of good, but having just the snippets of, like, his memories of him and Salma Hayek's and Mike's character, and how, their story really progressed, right? Again, as much as that's supposed to be the focus of it all, it just didn't really work out. Like, even with Hayek, right? I love her. She's an amazing actress. I think that I think that even in some of her more recent films, she does a really great job of it. But I just felt like with her character was just not well written. And I think that this just goes back to the writing itself and not really Hayek's, abilities as an actor. I think Hayek probably just did the best that she could with the character that she had on hand. But I think that the problem ends up being that the writing just didn't really work out for the character. The writing may have just really destroyed sort of what we're trying to get out of this character. Again, if it was trying to bring some sort of sympathy out of it, I didn't really get that. Or the fact that, what she's trying to do is trying to be, trying to defy all odds. I wasn't really getting all of that. And again, I think that the problem is more so the writing than really just like the whole, execution of the film. And I think the writing itself is where, if you can't get the pacing right, if you can't get the idea right, if you can't even get the characters to even be a much more fleshed out sort of personality, then yeah, the film is not going to do well. And I think that's what ended up happening with this case. Like, the film just became a jobbling mess where it just became just filled with cringe, on something that just didn't feel so natural, as well as some really horrible chemistry between characters that just didn't really work out. And I think that's all I really have to say about that. Again, like, if I were to give this film a any sort of star, I'll just probably give it like a 1.5, because I just did not enjoy this film at all. It was not a very good. If this was supposed to be the conclusion of the Magic Mike series, it's not the strongest conclusion to it. I think that it should have just stopped at the second film, or maybe should have just stopped the first film. But overall, like, I think this film kind of just ruined everything that was the Magic Mike series, just because it just wasn't well done at all. And yeah, just from just how it was presented, it just, again, things just did not feel, it just didn't feel good about it. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Magic Mike's Last Dance. Have you seen the film? What are your thoughts about it? Do you think you felt like you were cringing from it, or did you actually enjoy it more than I had? Because I totally did not enjoy it. But if you did, that's great to know. Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.